we're looking at specific market data for any brand, any dealer. And really what this tells us is up-to-date RDR data. So like literally up until like yesterday, I can pull this information. For this example, I focused on 3 full months just to get a really solid picture of what's going on in this particular market. But it really helps us, again, understand what are buyers buying from a make perspective, model perspective, segment, and then really have an idea of how on-brand and off-brand dealerships are performing. So I'll show you some of that data. So this is just a high-level overview of what's kind of happening in this particular market, which is right outside of Boston. So we can understand what Nissan dealers are performing from a top model overview, and then also looking at a dealer's sales concentration. So depending on, of course, where the dealership is located, you know, if you're right in a city, your sales concentration of at least 80% is probably within like a 10-mile radius maybe. But if you're outside a city, it could be a little bit higher, like 20 or 30 miles. So that's important for us to know. So we can't just treat every client like they're located in a city, keep their radius super small, or just guess at, you know, not only what they're doing in their PMA, but also what's going on outside of their PMA and where there's opportunity. So this really, again, helps us understand, okay, what is that kind of market like for that particular dealer in terms of where exactly they're targeting their shoppers and where they're effectively bringing shoppers in.
And including that competitive market, like what are my competitors performing in by model so that we know what to focus on.
Exactly. Yep.
Wow.
And then this is more of we can actually get down to the zip code level for a lot of different data. So I'm just going to show you a couple here. So this is specifically, you know, looking at other on-brand dealers, so other Nissan dealers, and who's really dominating the market right now. So we can see, again, color-coded by dealer. And every little element in here is zip code related. So we can get down to the zip code to see, okay, do I need to protect my market a little bit more efficiently in this particular area? Am I seeing success outside of my PMA that maybe I need to further capitalize on? And obviously, as a lot of people on the call are probably connecting the dots, this obviously is going to fuel a lot of other channel strategies. So not just SEO, but also paid search, connected TV, connected radio, you know, especially for conquesting and connected TV. We can look at off-brand performance, which I'll show you in a little bit. But again, we kind of set the stage with this data when we talk to a new client. And then we're presenting this moving forward now on like a 6-month to an annual time period to really make sure, again, does our strategy need to be adjusted and where are there opportunities?
It's very cool.
This is super helpful to understand like where those Nissan models are actually selling in the market. So instead of us just kind of like blasting the entire PMA, if we have specific areas that we need to focus on, so from an SEO perspective, when we're creating that dealership content, we can really hone in, of course, on that dealer's direct backyard, but we can really start to focus on those specific locations where we know that there are heavy Nissan buyers. So it's really cool in terms of understanding where we want to emphasize and where we can maybe just not really worry about yet, maybe until year 2. And then this is the last section for on-brand that we look at. We take a look at just overall trends, of course. So over the last 3 months, we can look 6 months to a year. How have things been performing from a model perspective? So again, this is, of course, we want to understand the dealership specific models, but we can understand specifically in that market, what are the models that people are buying? So we can really hone in our efforts for like vehicle reviews. When it comes to off-brand, like I mentioned, that's a huge opportunity as well. So in our SEO program, when we're creating those comparison content pieces, we don't just want to look at search volume and assume, oh, okay, maybe Honda is the best one to compare to Nissan just because that has a high search volume. When we look at actually what's happening in the market, we can make a lot more strategic decisions on, well, what are people actually buying that we have a higher likelihood of in this market to defect them to. So what's really interesting now is with all this trend data is more and more buyers are defecting to other brands because of inventory. So we can see just like really different trends on what's going on from, you know, how shoppers are purchasing and what brands they're looking at. So in this particular market, you can see that Toyota and Ford are really owning the space here. As we get a little bit more into the actual city, of course, that changes a little bit. We see a lot more Honda, a little bit more Jeep, but that's really good for us to know. Again, if we're focusing on this backyard area, we're really going to hone in on Toyota and Ford. And just like we saw for the model view, we can also look at off-brand model performance. So this essentially takes every single make model within this dealer's backyard and looks at performance in terms of sales over the last 3 months. So again, for those comparison pieces that we would be creating, we would essentially look at what are people actually buying down to the model level so we can create the right comparisons for our dealership's core models. I always like this slide as well, especially again, like I mentioned, like connected TV. I love that for a conquesting opportunity because we can go after in-market shoppers of particular makes and models. So if we want to go after the RAV4 or the F-150 buyers or Grand Cherokee buyers, we can target those in-market shoppers with that kind of branding messaging. So just another way that we use this data to kind of fuel our decisions. And then last but not least, same sort of thing here with the overall trend lines of different makes, different models, dealerships that are performing in the market. So you can see, you know, Tesla had kind of some interesting experiences over the last couple of months, taking a nosedive in February. You can see Chrysler Jeep really on the rise into February. So kind of gives us insight now maybe in terms of who's getting more inventory so we can make those decisions as we move forward.